Hello students. In today's segment, we will discuss about trait approaches in a very detailed manner. Now, actually, trait theories are mainly concerned with the description or characterization of basic components of personality, and they try to discover the building blocks of personality. Trait approach attempts to identify primary characteristics of people. So, trait approach is very similar to our common experience in everyday life. For example, when we come to know that a person is sociable, we assume that he will not only be cooperative, friendly, and helping, but also engage in behaviors that involve other social components. Thus, trait approach attempts to identify primary characteristics of people. Now, what is a trait? It's an important question. So, a trait is considered as a relatively enduring attribute or quality on which one individual differs from another. And they include a range of possible behaviors that are activated according to the demands of the situation. এইটো খুব ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট হয় তোমালোকৰ কুৱেশ্যন আহি থাকে হোৱাট ইজ এ ট্ৰেড ক'লে তোমালোকে এইখিনি লিখিব লাগিব যে ট্ৰেডটো হৈছে কি ট্ৰেড ইজ কনচিডাৰ্ড এজ ৰিলেটিভলি এণ্ডিউৰিং এট্ৰিবিউট অৰ কোৱালিটি on which one individual differs from another. কিছুমান মানুহ খুব বেছি social, কিছুমান কম social, কিছুমানে বেছি কথা কয়, কিছুমানে কম কথা কয়. So all these are different qualities or different attributes of individuals. So they are known as the traits of people. Okay, so to summarize, the traits are actually stable over time. They are generally consistent across situations, and their strengths and combinations vary across individuals, leading to individual differences in personality. So these are the main features of trait. তোমালোকক যদি সুধে what are the main features of trait, তেতিয়াহ'লে তোমালোকে তিনিটা পইণ্টে লিখিব লাগিব. They are relatively stable over time. তাৰমানে কেৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্সবিলাক টাইম টু টাইম চেঞ্জ হৈ থাকিব নালাগিব, তেতিয়াহে সেইটো ইণ্ডিভিজুৱেলজনৰ ষ্টেবল ট্ৰেইট হ'ব. Generally consistent across situations, and also their strengths and combinations vary across individuals, leading to individual differences in personality. সেইকাৰণে প্ৰত্যেকজন মানুহ যে বেলেগ হয়, প্ৰত্যেকজন মানুহেই একেটা ফেমিলিৰো ইভেন ব্ৰাদাৰ ছিষ্টাৰ্ছবিলাকো একেবাৰে একে নহয়. কিছুমান কেৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্স যদিও চিমিলাৰ হয়, বাট অল দ্য কেৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্স আৰ নট অলৱেজ ছেইম, এণ্ড হেন্স উই অল আৰ ইউনিক ইণ্ডিভিজুৱেলছ. আৰু এই গোটেই বস্তুবিলাক আমি ট্ৰেইটৰ কেৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্সত পাইছোঁ. Trait approach আমি তিনিটা থিয়ৰী বিষয়ে ডিটেইলত পাম. These are Gordon Alports trait theory, then Raymond B. Cattell's trait theory, and A.J. Izensteins trait theory. So first is Gordon Alports trait theory. Actually, Gordon Alport is known as the father of trait approach to study personality. He proposed that individuals possess a number of traits which are dynamic in nature, and these traits are dynamic in nature. These traits are the basic units of personality. Each of us develop a unique set of such organized tendencies termed as traits. Alport proposed that there are three types of traits. They are cardinal traits, central traits, and secondary traits. Now, cardinal traits actually are highly generalized dispositions, and they indicate the goal around which a person's entire life seems to revolve. কিছুমান এক্সাম্পল দিছে লাইক মহাত্মা গান্ধীজ নন ভাইলেন্স, দেন হিটলাৰ্ছ নাজিজিম, মাদাৰ টেৰেছাজ humanitarianism. So all these are some examples of cardinal traits. The next is known as the central traits. They are less pervasive in effect but still quite generalized dispositions. For example, warmth, sincerity, and so on. So these are known as the central traits. And third is known as the secondary traits. They are the least generalized dispositions or characteristics of a person, like suppose some people likes mangoes, and some prefers ethnic clothes, and so on. So these are some least generalized characteristics of person known as the secondary traits. Actually, cardinal, central, and secondary, all these traits are different traits as proposed by Gordon Alport, who is known as the pioneer of trait approach. And he said that individuals possess a number of traits which are completely dynamic in nature. He stated that traits are dynamic in nature, and all these are cardinal, central, and secondary traits as proposed by Gordon Alport. So So although Alport's trait theory is interesting and more scientific compared to type theories, but it also has some defects or weaknesses, as it does not address development of the traits, unable to predict about the future also. So these are some defects of Alport's theory. But this theory is one of the popular theory, and Alport is known as the father of trait approach to study personality. Now next theory is known as the Raymond B. Cattell's personality theory. So Raymond B. Cattell actually believed that there is a common structure on which people differ from each other. So this structure could be determined empirically. And this theory actually is one of the most recent advanced theory of personality, and that is known as Cattell's theory of personality. And Cattell, he was actually a British born American researcher, and he believed that there is a common structure on which people differ from each other. So this structure could be determined from experiments and observation. And Raymond B. Cattell applied actually one statistical technique, and that is known as factor analysis, to discover the common structures. Now Cattell found 16 primary or 16 source traits. So all these source traits are stable traits, and they are considered as the building blocks of personality. And all these traits actually are like he arranged these traits in opposing tendencies, like some people are reserved, whereas others are outgoing, some are serious, some are happy-go-lucky, and like that. And besides these traits, there are also a number of surface traits that result out of the interaction of source traits, as stated by Cattell. Now Cattell described the source traits in terms of opposing tendencies. already কৈছো, so opposing tendencies are traits বিলাক arrange কৰিছিলে, আৰু তেওঁ এটা test develop কৰিছিলে. That test is known as the 16 personality factor or 16 PF, to assess the personality characteristics of individuals. Now this is one widely used test actually, and psychologists, they like to use this test to assess personality pattern of individuals. So this is known as 16 PF. The next is known as Izensteins theory. Now H.J. Izensteins proposed that personality could be reduced. Personality can be reduced into two broad dimensions. So these are biologically and genetically based. So this theory actually tries to synthesize the type and trait approaches. So starting with the trait approach, it yields definite personality types, and hence it is not considered as a pure trait theory, but it is the combination of type cum trait theory. Now H.J. Izensteins also, he was a German born British psychologist, and he proposed that personality could be reduced into two broad dimensions. So they are genetically and biologically based, and at the first phase of his life, he described two basic dimensions of personality, and these dimensions consist of several traits, and these are, number one is the neuroticism versus emotional stability, and second one is the extroversion versus introversion. Now neuroticism versus emotional stability, it states that some people are neurotic, whereas others are emotionally stable. Now the people who are neurotic, they are anxious, they are moody, touchy, restless, and quickly lose control. But the people who are emotionally stable, they are calm, even-tempered, reliable, and they remain under control. So they are stable. And second dimension is known as the extroversion versus introversion. Now people who are extroverted, they are active, gregarious, then they are impulsive, thrill-seeking also. And on the other hand, some people are introverted, they are passive, quiet, cautious, and reserved. So these are two dimensions of personality as stated by Izensteins. But at the later phase of his life, actually in a later work, he proposed another dimension, that is called psychoticism versus sociability. So people who are high on psychoticism tend to be egocentric, then insensitive, they are hostile, they are antisocial, And people who scores high on sociability, they tend to accept social norms, they are bold, they are empathic. So all the positive qualities are within them. So these are different dimensions of personality as proposed by um, Eysenck. Now Eysenck also developed one personality test that is known as Eysenck Personality Questionnaire. This is also one widely used test to study personality. Now, all these three basic dimensions refer to definite personality types like introvert, extrovert, neurotic, stable, psychotic, social. However, the term type as applied by Eysenck stands clearly for a dimension having two extremely opposing points like high and low. And there are some defects also in all these trait theories. Like the trait approach is, although it is very popular and some advances in this respect are taking place, but all these theories are not discussed in your book. However, one new formulation has been given in your book, that is the 5-factor model of personality. Now, this is forwarded by psychologist Paul Costa and Robert McCrae, and this theory is known as the 5-factor model of personality. They are often called big 5 factors because the findings indicate a set of 5 factors. Now these 5 factors are openness to experience, then extroversion, third one is agreeableness, fourth one is neuroticism, fifth one is conscientiousness, and all these factors possess certain characteristics also, like openness to experience. So the people who score high on this factor, they are imaginative, curious, open to new ideas, and are interested in cultural pursuits. And in contrast, those who score low in this factor, they are generally rigid. So number 2 is known as the extroversion, and it characterizes people who are socially active, impulsive, assertive, outgoing, talkative, fun-loving. But on its opposite, there are some people who are shy. They are introverted. And third is known as the agreeableness. So this factor characterizes people who are helpful, cooperative, friendly, caring and nurturing. And on the other hand, some people are hostile and they are self-centered also. And the fourth one is neuroticism. People who score high on this factor are emotionally unstable, they are worried, depressed, fearful, they are irritable also. But on the opposite side, some people are well adjusted. They are emotionally stable. And fifth one is conscientiousness. So the people who score high on this factor are achievement oriented, they are responsible, they are prudent, hardworking and self-controlled. On the other hand, there are some people who are impulsive. So these are different factors, 5 factors actually, and all these 5 factors possess different personality patterns. Now this model represents an important theoretical development in the field of personality, and it has been found useful in understanding the personality profile of people across cultures. And while it is consistent with the analysis of personality traits found in different languages, it is also supported by the studies of personality carried out through different methods. Hence, it is now considered to be the most promising empirical approach to the study of personality. So it is known as the 5-factor model of personality. Thank you.